All right, I want to do a rundown on Jeeps. I've had a bunch of different Jeeps. My first real vehicle that I ever owned was a Jeep Cherokee, all the way up to today, over 20 years later, and I am driving, 25 years later, and I am driving a 6-speed Rubicon JK Unlimited. Anvil gray, very cool Jeep. And I have been a torrid love affair for 25 years with Jeeps. All love, no heat, no hate. I've had over 50. So if you've had 50 Jeeps, all the way from CJs and CJs and TJs and YJs and Wranglers and JKs and Cherokees and Liberties, and man, I feel like I've had them all. Grand Cherokees. I've had a couple Wagoneers, couple of the old full-size Cherokees, full-size Jeeps. Had a big run with full-size Jeeps for a long time. The J10s and the J20s. Manuals, automatics, all of them. So, of all of them I've had, I can tell you probably the most impressive all around when it comes to off-road for what it is a Cherokee, just a good old classic XJ. I've just seen them in stock format just go so many places. Really a perfect wheelbase. They're really great. It's probably the reason why they're so expensive. They have really jumped in value. They're astronomical to find one that doesn't have 1 million miles on it. Whether that be the long running XJ, or whether that be like a 97 up, body style and a half upgrade. Those are awesome. Sometimes with the electronics, sometimes the old way really is better. I have a Comanche right now that I absolutely love, and it's very minimal electronics. And then I have this newer JKU Unlimited, loaded power seats, heated seats, heated seats. It's got some nice bells and whistles. And yet I will say, because it's a Rubicon, this is probably the most capable Jeep I have ever owned. I've thrashed on it really hard. The front axle, even from the last Jeep Fest, is just tweaked and squeaked and still making noise. The drive shaft is clicking. I worked this thing into the ground. Not just daily drive, but still out on the weekends hammering on it. It's an awesome vehicle, and most guys that have a JKU Rubicon will tell you one of the most capable Jeeps of all time, especially in the manual. I've had the new Gladiator. I've had a brand new JL Unlimited Rubicon, and I want to say maybe those are getting on the edge of too much electronics. So that's the reason why I feel like the JKU is kind of a perfect blend. What else? Jeeps. J-Trucks are awesome. They're very cool, very hard to find them in a rust-free way. I love a J10, love a J20. Hard to find a J20 that is a manual, and it's hard to find any of those that are in good shape that are manuals. So some of these vehicles, when they go to a certain age, you don't want the automatic. In my opinion, I don't want the automatic. I want the manual. They're a little more sought after. The 258 inline 6 that was used so much in the 70s and the 80s, that is a really awesome motor. Super reliable, never let me down, never had any problems. I've never really blown a Jeep motor up except for overheating, and all preventable, by the way. Now that I kind of know a thing or two about Jeeps, I have a buddy of mine. We were talking about Chrysler products in general, and he has a late 90s, early 2000s Chrysler product. And he said, hey, what do you recommend? And I said, man, just really watch the cooling system. Because I said that really the death knell for a lot of those Jeep Chrysler products was overheating. I say, you're pretty good on the oil changes and stuff. I really think they'll last you forever. Obviously not forever. They're not going to be a Tacoma that goes, they're not going to be the T100 that goes 1 million miles. Sorry, Jeep guys, they're just not going to do that. But you do see Cherokees out there with close to 500,000 on the 4.0. which that's pretty impressive considering how much abuse those things get. They are really great. I think the 4.0, probably not the most popular opinion. I think the 4.0 is a little overrated, and probably one of the things that I'm jaded on when it comes to the 4.0 inline 6 Jeep motor is they're so expensive now, so it's not worth it. So if I was to be looking for a YJ or a TJ, because of the cost savings, I would 100% without a doubt save thousands of dollars going with a 2.5. And I think for most scenarios, a 2.5 is fantastic. I think they're great. If you take a TJ or a YJ and you jack it up with the 4.0, it still needs a regear. So at that point when you're still doing a regear on it, and this is something I've learned after 20 years, if you're going to do a regear on it, you can get a regear and do it on the 2.5 and get a lot of power. Is it going to have the same kind of torque? No. Is it going to have plenty of power? Yeah. I think the 2.5 inline 4-cylinder is one of the most underrated motors, and a lot of that is because the 4.0 was so great. You know, as an analogy, I don't hate Dark Knight Rises. I like it a lot. Dark Knight Rises is a good movie. In comparison to The Dark Knight, it's trash. The Dark Knight's one of the best movies ever made. Dark Knight Rises it's a good movie, but it's nothing compared to The Dark Knight. And some people will agree with me on this, some people will disagree. It's my opinion. I think the 2.5 is a really good motor, and I think the 4.0 is a really, really great motor for what it does and for its purpose. It's amazing, especially considering the 258 for what it was, and then they just got all the horsepower out of it, because the one problem with every carbureted 258 that I've ever had, it never had the top end. And if you've ever had a 4.0 and put some free-flowing air exhaust stuff on it, that thing screams at 3,000-4,000 RPMs. And I feel like the 258 was never able to really do that. Some of my favorite Jeeps I've ever had have had the 258 in them. The 2.5, like I said, a great motor. Abusing squirrels, a little squirrel motor. Another one I had that was really cool, speaking of Jeeps, since we're just on a Jeep talk, I had a Dauntless V6. Some people say this is the predecessor to the Grand National motor. I've heard that debated. Maybe it is. Fill me into the comments if you agree, disagree. Maybe you can educate me. That is a cool little motor, made decent power. It was in a CJ5 I had, and a 3-speed, CJ5 and a 3-speed. That was cool. I'll tell you one thing that I wouldn't get, and I daily drivered this. It was my daily driver. I had a full-size Cherokee, 2-door Wagoneer looking thing. Really cool. It was a Chief. Really, really cool. It had a 360 V8, which was cool because you get the V8 power and you get the V8 sound. And compared to modern day V8s, it's nothing. But for back then, that V8's cool. But it had a 3-speed manual, and that was not a good commuter vehicle. Especially once you put a little lift on it, it just wasn't good. It just needed one more. So, that being said, I have passed on some Jeeps because they had the 3-speed manual. Just because it limits you down to really what you can do with it, or kind of where you want to go with it. So if you buy something and it already has that amazing drivetrain, that's perfect. Now the last one, this one that I'm working on right now, it's a Comanche, and because I was trying to save money, I bought it 2-wheel drive. It had everything I wanted, except it wasn't 4-wheel drive, it was 2-wheel drive. And I went ahead and did all the research how to swap it over to 4-wheel drive, and it's in the last stages. It's technically drivable right now. I drove it this spring back and forth to work. I got a soft topper on it, I'll throw it up on the page. I'll throw it up on the channel. It's pretty cool. You'll probably see hopefully very soon you'll see a drive-in talking type of video with me inside the Comanche. Not sure how that will work with all the road noise, because those things are pretty loud. And it is an awesome Jeep. And it has a 2.5. And I've been blown away by it. It had a 4-speed. I put in a AX5 5-speed 4-wheel drive 231 transfer case in it. And Jeeps are my passion. I just absolutely love them. So, of all the Jeeps I've had, JK's right up there with one of my favorite. I feel like it's a perfect mix of new and old, practical and utilitarian, and just really the sweet spot. Not the biggest fan of the JL. I do think the Gladiator is really cool. One of the things about the Gladiator I feel like you have to do immediately, or they just look really kind of soft. They immediately need wheels, tires, and a little lift. And if you want to see one of the baddest things on the road, a Gladiator on 40s, I mean, that is the absolute, in my opinion, best looking setup on the road. And a lot of people don't even re-gear them. They just take a Gladiator, stick it on 40s, and bam, there you go. I mean, you have something that out of the box looks incredible. You don't even re-gear it. Most people I talk to that have the 40s, they don't even re-gear them for a while, because that 8-speed transmission is so incredible that it just picks up the slack wherever it's needed. I'll tell you another one, which this is not, everyone will say the 4.0 is the best motor ever made. 4.0 is the best. I think the best motor ever made, and I think it, of course, needs some tweaks to it. It's not perfect, but I think the best motor Jeep's ever had, in my opinion. I've never had a 392 Wrangler. Someday, maybe. It's not going to happen for my midlife crisis because I'm already right there. I would love to have a Wrangler Hemi 392. But I think the 3.6 Pentastar is the best motor that Jeep has ever made. Power, fuel economy, longevity, I think it's fantastic. I'm going to push mine to the absolute limit of how many miles I can put on it. Right now I have 141,000 miles on it. It is 10 years old, and I'm hoping to go 300,000 miles on it. So I'm going to double what it's doing right now. I want to go 300,000 miles on it. I know they're out there. I had a good friend of mine buy a earlier model JK, and he had 300,000 miles on it, and the motor was slap worn out. So that's what the story was. The motor was slap worn out. Was it really? I don't know. Could it have been prolonged? Maybe if they had been, more rigorous with the maintenance schedule. But I think the 3.6 is fantastic. Most vehicles don't go 300,000 miles these days. Probably a fantastic conspiracy rabbit hole to go down. I don't think they even really want them to go 300,000 miles these days. I bet that we probably have tires that can go 100,000 to 150,000 miles. But if we had that, people wouldn't be buying tires and they wouldn't be making money. So I've always heard it said the Coyote 5.0 is the best motor that they put in the Ford, and it seems like they're doing away with it. You talk to every mechanic, they'll say the Coyote 5.0 is the best motor. But why are they getting rid of it? Probably because it's the best motor. All they're building now is just junk. So that's my opinion. 3.6 is a great motor. Will it stand the test of time? I don't know. We will find out. Are there 4.0s that blow head gaskets and blow up at 150,000 miles? Yep, they do it too. 392 Wrangler, that's a bucket list. I'm going to do a 392 Wrangler someday, either on this side of eternity, temporary realm, or in heaven. I will someday get to enjoy that. Even if I'm just going for a ride in Gloryland. Someday I will. So, that being said, please, 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 if you are a Jeep hater and you think Jeeps are gay, I don't think you have found the right one or you have had the right experience, because Jeeps are awesome. There's nothing better off-road. They're still one of the only things out there that has kept a solid axle. Don't have a Jeep Renegade and get a bad impression or a bad taste in your mouth. Go with a couple guys who have Rubicons and you'll be blown away by what they're capable of. Toyotas are fantastic, but I don't know, something about a Jeep, they're just great. So, hope y'all like my Jeep talk. I'm just talking from the heart today. Thanks.